Welcome to the third edition of the newly named At the Ref Pod. We've changed the name going forward because Ref, are you having a laugh? Proved a little bit difficult to find on the Spotify's and YouTube's and whatever else. So everything's At the Ref Pod now. So if you're searching us on whatever podcast service you're using, or if you're using YouTube, it's At the Ref Pod. If you're on Twitter, At the Ref Pod. Instagram, Facebook, at the Ref Pod. So it's pretty simple, really. Get in and find us. I've got the usual trio with you today, but we've got a special guest that I'm going to pass over to Martin in a second to introduce. So, Martin, over to you, mate.
Yes, it's a bit of an honour, really, having Andy on. Andy's a very modest man. And Andy Ambler's, has got a huge reputation for positivity in the game. Right back to his days, I think he was Millwall chief exec, were you not, And?
I was, yeah.
And now your role now involves, explain a little bit about your role, please, And, in the FA, and I believe you're having a massive impact on the game, positive, but really good to see where you are in it.
Yeah, thanks, Martin, and thanks, Wayne. I'm Director of Professional Game Relations at the FA. That doesn't tell the true story of what I do, probably, but I've been here nearly, I think just over 6 years, and the role was put in place originally to make sure that the relationship between the pro game and the FA was a better one. And I've been in clubs before that, so you're absolutely right, Martin. I was 7 years on the board of Fulham, and then 10 years on the board of Millwall. So I've had 17 years experience at clubs, and then I come to the FA to try and make sure that the FA, which is just, this is a people business, right? Whatever we think, it's a people business, so that we understand each other and actually we can work and collaborate better than we were doing in the past. That's the short summary. What they didn't tell me when I came in, that they'd want me to look into refereeing and take over the senior management, I think, responsibility for FA refereeing department, which I did, and I thought this is going to be interesting. 17 years of sitting in the stands as a director, watching hundreds of games of football in the pro game, and being honest, having some sympathy with refs. I wasn't overly critical, but I probably was, because you are when you're in that position. I don't care what anyone says, and therein lies some of the issues, and we can talk about that in the next few minutes. But I find myself, having never refereed a game in my life, taking over the referee department of the FA, but also becoming a board member of PGMOL, the introduction of VAR and everything like that. So I've really immersed myself over the last 6 years in all things refereeing, and it's been a journey. And it's been a journey of, I think, going from, as I say, football fan, and then involved in the game, and not really understanding the pressures of refereeing and officiating and the responsibility that goes with it, but also the fact that, we need to do, which I'm sure we're going to come on to, what we need to do to respect the officials going forward, and what we need to do to make sure we've got a cohort of referees and people in the game that can continue to drive standards and make sure that we do what we're meant to do. Because at the end of the day, referees are, without doubt, one of the most important elements to the game. But that refereeing is, without referees, you don't have a game. So I know it's obvious, and you just said it all before, but it needs to be repeated time and time again.
No, it's amazing. You've actually thrown some info at myself that I didn't even know there, mate. And from my point of view, I've been banging the drum, and I've been smashing a couple of windows at Wembley to try and get some spotlight on the problem in the game. And since you're involved, and I'm not just going to blow smoke up your ass here, but you've been, I believe, one of the most positive influences on the support of referees since you've come in. It's no coincidence that some of the tools that referees have got now is down to your influence. And I think I've always said you don't have to be a dog to be a vet. People say, they've got to be this level of referee to coach there. I believe having that sort of different look from your point of view and your experience in the pro game from your levels is a real massive asset, because sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. And you did a lot of work with the IFAB as well, didn't you, Rand?
Yeah, so I don't represent us on IFAB. The chief executive does, as you're aware. But we go to IFAB with various requests. I think we're being more vociferous with IFAB. Martin, you know the journey we've been on body cams, right? It wasn't going to get traction some time ago, but we've got a trial away, and I'm glad we've led that. I think that's important that we've led that, and the trial is ongoing, and it's too early, but we're already seeing some positivities from it, and let's see what that does after a good period of time. But I think the IFAB is important, obviously, keep the laws of the game, but it's just important for us to constantly have our foot on the pedal in terms of the things that IFAB discuss, and make sure we're pushing the boundaries, and make sure we're not still, just saying that it was all right 20 years ago, so it's all right now, because that's not the case. We live in a different society than we did then. We all know the issues we've got as societal issues, and how they impact on the game, and how we can use the game to the positive. So IFAB are receptive, I think. We think we're in a good place, but sometimes it is frustrating that it takes a long time to change things. Not refereeing led really, but concussion substitutes and wanting temporary concussion. We're all over that, but IFAB won't budge. But we think that's the right thing to do for football. But hey, that's just another storyline. But we at least we're in there and we're having the discussions rather than just not discussing it.
That was brilliant. And we talked to the two wings, and they can come in on this. And the relative recent one of the points deduction from level 7 down. Our previous episode we talked long and hard about this, which again, and you and your team, and obviously Fraser as well on that side of things. It's just brilliant. Another brilliant positive move by the FA and a few different departments to get that over the line. And I just think that's going to be as fundamentally important as a body cam pilot. And I really believe the FA and everyone involved in that should get a major pat on the back for bringing that into play.
I agree, Martin. I think Fraser and his team did a great job in the grassroots side of the FA. I think Fraser being a referee helps as well in that instance. But that was a big thing. Getting points deductions on the table for even for whatever level of the game was a big. I think it's a big game changer. And I think the game above step 7 should look down and go, wow, that could be us if we don't change.
Brilliant.
Right? I think we can use it as a massive stick. How we use that over the next year or so is going to be interesting. Use it at the right time. But I think it's a major step forward for all of us in order to actually make sure that we're going to use it. I don't know how it's going to be utilised, as none of us do when you put these things in. But I think it is for exceptional circumstances. But hey, the minute that a league out there or a county decides to use this points deduction, we should be shouting from the rooftops about it. That's my view.
Can I just ask you on that as well? I think it's the question on a lot of people's lips that I've spoke to, and I've listened to other people this week in the media and stuff. Obviously, there's a bit of a difference between what tier it starts at for women and what tier it starts at for men. I guess I have an idea of why that is. But I just wanted to know, more importantly from my perspective, was why or is the plans in place to introduce this into junior football? Because I think junior football is crying out for this in order to try and combat and control the behaviour that we get on sidelines to parents. And I'm talking, and I mean this genuinely, and I've witnessed it, and I've been victim of it, doing it myself, as young as 6 and 7, under 7 football. The abuse and threats you get, is real at that age. So is that something that will be looked to be introduced, do you think, going forward?
Yes, Wayne, it will. Absolutely. I think we should. I think it should be in youth football. I think it should be in every level of football, other than probably the pyramid. Because when you start getting into more difficult areas of integrity of competition, when you have promotion and relegation and all the issues, you don't want a league decided on a points deduction. You don't want I don't know, Leeds not. No, I'm choosing my words carefully for Manfred Doncaster. You want Leeds to get relegated, and what I'm trying to say is you don't want the outcome of that league decided on a points deduction because of something like that. But you know what? The threat should be there that we brought it in at this level. Let's see how we go with it. As I said earlier with body cams, let's just see how this pilot works. This is not a pilot that the points deduction is in, but let's see how it works and let's see what behaviours it changes.
Agreed. It fell under immediate criticism. So, people saying, "Oh, it should be at the top." Other people saying it should be at the bottom. It should be everywhere. But I think us three last week, we're all in agreement. It started somewhere, and it's a start. And we couldn't applaud you guys enough for it. We think it's absolutely superb that you've done this.
Yeah, well, like I say, Wayne, it's a game changer. We think We've got a new referee strategy we're going to launch in July. That's taken a lot of time and effort. The FA is putting more money into refereeing than it's ever done before. The board have been really supportive. But one of the things that I remember us talking about 18 months when we were, developing the strategy with FA Council or whatever, we talked about points deductions. And we talked about, it doesn't cost anything, this, but it's going to be a game changer. And I think I'm just delighted that the guys got it over the line. And it got supported, by the way. That's the point. It's getting something over the line. If you've got some outliers say, "Oh, we shouldn't be doing it," nobody really thinks it's a bad idea. So,
how long would you have said as a timeline from somebody saying, "Shall we talk about points deductions," to it actually being instigated? Has this taken you?
Well, I think you'll probably have some people say we've been talking about this for years, Wayne, frankly. But from our point of view, I think, as I say, Fraser and the guys were doing some work over a period of time, probably 12 months or so. But it does take time because we have to go to the FRA, the Football Regulator. It's an independent rule-making, regulation-making body at the FA. So it doesn't just happen, 1 week and we can get it through next week. It takes any change like this is a process that has to be gone through to get it through various committee structures.
12 months does seem pretty quick. That's admirable, to be fair.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I thought it was not a pipe dream. I didn't know that we would be able to get it through without any bumps in the road. But I think the timing is right, and that says something about where we are at the moment. If I'm honest.
Can I just quickly jump in on it? What I also loved about it was because I downloaded it and I read through it last week before we did the pod. And I was looking about, how severe it can be from 3 points all the way up to 12 points. And I loved it, how that could vary on how the clubs reacted to what had gone off. So, for example, if it was a manager that had done it for whatever reason, or the player and the club had said, we no longer have them at the club, we've got rid of them, that would reduce the points deduction. Whereas opposed to if they say, well, actually, we're keeping them. And, we've talked to whatever, but that could increase your points. And what I was saying last week is, speaking from a grassroots perspective, but junior football, we get it from time to time where players move over or coaches move over, more coaches really. And I get other chairmen that message me and they ask, oh, why is he moving from your club? Has anything gone off? And then you can actually say, well, yeah, this is what he's done, blah, blah, blah. Or no, he's just moved areas, he wants to keep coaching or whatever. And I think, and I was saying last week, that by putting that in order to get your points deductions reduced or increased based on how you reacted as a club, would hopefully, from where I stand, drive these individuals out of the game. Because I do think you've got to be a special type of person to go above the verbal abuse, to go to physical assault to referee. I think there's got to be something missing upstairs, maybe, rather than added. But I think that what you'll get is these clubs will have just kept him. Let's say he's a really good player. Is it a referee? But so what? He scored us 25 goals. He's won his league. Who cares? Whereas now you're going to have to think, well, I'm not going to keep that player. I'm going to release him because I can't risk my club, my team, getting points reductions regardless of how good he is. So then when he goes on to these other clubs, and if he's got history of it and these clubs talk and they communicate and say, well, I've got rid of him because he assaulted the referee, and we have points deductions, and then the next club says, well, I don't want him either. And then without actually banning the individual that's done it, what we're kind of doing is pushing them down a road where nobody wants to take them on anymore. So the sport that they love, they can no longer participate because of the behaviour. So I'm hoping the ones that are maybe 50-50 between snapping and not would then decide, actually, do you know what? I'm just going to zip it. It's not worth it because I love football more than giving that ref some abuse. And I thought that, out of all of it, I thought that was the best part for me. That your punishment is either increased or decreased based on these factors. I thought that was superb.
Yeah, I think. Look, what we need is a change of mindset at grassroots level for people who run the clubs to say that we're not accepting that. That's not the way we're going to run our club, and that's what you're saying, Wayne. And if this is a tool that allows that to happen or gives them a way of making that happen, right? Because there's a consequence.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think that participant behaviour is a big issue in the game from top to bottom. But I think also the fact that these people feel that they're able to do this. We've normalised abuse, right, in society. We've normalised abuse, certainly towards officials and referees. Thankfully, assaults are rare, and we say that because we see the statistics, but one is too many, right? So I say that as well because I think me and Martin have had a few conversations on that in the past, but you know, I don't care if it's one. You know, I'd love it if it was one, because one would be in the whole country would be amazing. But we've got to that's got to be our task, to eliminate it from the game and make sure people know the consequences. But also, you say, drive these people out. I'm not sure we'll drive people out the game, because you love something, you won't be driven out. But we can change behaviours. People can change behaviour, I think.
I agree, and I think what's really important about it is it's another tool in the referee's toolbox with regards to how you manage something, where you can say to someone, look, you know, if your abuse is getting too much, you know, you could lose points here, and it's having these sort of subtle movements where a lot of the conversations I have with referees is that they feel like if they're going to do something, the consequences coming straight back at them.
Yeah.
And I've always said things like, you know, if they send someone off, they can be angry with them, they can do whatever they do, which is all those horrible things we talked about. But what this does, this takes the decision making away from the field of play, where no one can intimidate. If it happens, the FA are going to take control of it. The FA are going to punish it. The FA are really going to come down on it, and having that sort of, it's like a sword of Damocles over a club has come into play here, which I think is really, really positive. It's a negative term, but it's a really positive outcome, where we get referees saying to us, I don't report abuse or assaults because it hasn't happened in the past, it wasn't being punished significantly, or the person who assaulted me, you know, I see him on a school run. And but having this sort of, this is, in my opinion, a different tactic from the FA, because they're taking control of it sort of away from the referee. They're saying, look, this is going to happen no matter what. I know we've got discipline processes with what happens with assault, and I've said in the past that sometimes, you know, it should be more. We don't seldom see Sani dies, but just having this other thing in the background, particularly with clubs, will force the clubs, like Wayne said, to take accountability who they're playing, and have accountability who they're having watching. That's the massive message here, that I think referees will feel like our national governing body are really behind us now with the body cam trial, with this. That's the much bigger message in the refereeing world, what I'm getting, mate.
Yeah, I agree, and I think look, it's about one of the biggest strands of our strategy going forward is environment. We call it environment of which referees operate in. You know, we need to change the environment. We need to make that environment more respectful, friendly. Referees go out there to enjoy it, right? They should enjoy it. Players go out there to enjoy it. Everyone arrives at that game, I think, on a Sunday morning or Saturday afternoon wanting to enjoy the game, you know, and it goes wrong sometimes. And that's what we need to stamp out and make sure people are there and realise, you know, yeah, it's competitive, right? We know the game's competitive. We know the game can sometimes boil over, because when you're competing, you know, things happen. But we've got to find the right way, and there's some really good examples of clubs out there. I'm not going to label every club. That there's clubs there that really look after their officials. You guys all know who they are. They're great. They welcome their officials. They make sure they're looked after. We think that we need more mentors. We think we need more support from, you know, some of the counties need to do a little bit more. I'm being open with them, you know, and we need to help, whether it be through, you know, groups like yourselves, Martin, and RA and people like that. But we need more people there looking after our officials and making sure our officials, and it really comes down to people, I think, who are coaches and players and doing the right thing, right? And especially as we know that, you know, a big percentage of our referees are young people. They're young people on the journey. They're doing it because they love the game. They probably feel that refereeing is their best way of being part of it, because maybe they're not good enough to play, or maybe they choose to go down this pathway. But I mean, we need a complete, as I say, mindset or cultural change to make sure they're allowed to enjoy it and allowed to progress and be the best referee official they can be in a safe environment. And I know there are words, right? And they are words, but somehow we've got to change behaviour to make sure that can happen.
Honestly, I said to you know Janie Frampton, our chair, and when we went up to Aston Villa, and you were there for the BAME conference, which was another brilliant development for support of people from underrepresented communities and the BAME community. It was another progressive move by you. And I remember, I think I said to you, I'd certainly said it to a few people up there, for the first time in years, I believe what's been getting said by people like yourself in the FA. For the first time in over a decade, I actually believe that you really are wanting to get hold of it. I'm not saying the previous people involved or whatever, they weren't, but the signs, the positivity, and the real strong measures that are coming into place, and other discussions that are happening, I think the referees are starting to believe that our national governing body really does want to help us. And I think long term, that's just really, really, hope is there for a lot of referees. You think, I go out there, I get shouted at, and no one's there for me. I think these things that's been created, and again, the referee strategy, which I know we talked about, all these things are really the green shoots of positive, real strong support from the FA are there to see. And I think that's the most important point about this.
Well, it's nice to say that, Mark, but we've got to follow up with action, and we've got to come up with a story, and we've got to tell the story right. Okay, so the strategy is the first one. I think we're going to launch it towards the start of the season, because I think it's important that refereeing, and this is me from being an outsider, has been very good at not communicating very well about the community and what it does and how and well it does and why it's needed. It's been very insular, I think. That's not uncommon in sport, I think. So what we've got to do is we've got to get out the message about all the things I said and more. Why do people take up refereeing? What's the positivity of refereeing? I mean, refereeing as a career, I wish I'd have thought about it as a 14, 15-year-old, because I was trying to be a footballer and I was always going to fail, but I didn't think about it. The skills that you get refereeing, not just the health skills, the way you have to manage people, conflict management is a big thing, but also just decision making, and it's just a good thing for people, young people especially, to take up. But the problem we have is that they'll get abused, they'll get the things you spoke about earlier, and they'll give up, and they'll give up far too early. And that's what we've got to start. We've got to get these youngsters in the game. I think stats say if you've refereed for more than a year, you're likely to be doing it for almost a lifetime. But that first 12 months is so critical for us to make sure that if you're a 14-year-old starting out or you're a 20-year-old coming into it, somehow we've got to make sure that person is operating in the right environment to feel supported and feel like abuse isn't normal, it shouldn't be normal, and we're not going to tolerate it. So these are all, again, I'm talking words, but that's the direction we're trying to go in.
I think people believe you, and to be honest, that belief hasn't been there for a while. I really genuinely believe that you've shown it in your actions by doing the points deduction, by allowing the body cam pilots. Danny Meeson's being behind it. We've had wonderful RDOs like Ross Joyce really putting out the positivity of being involved. And I've made some lifelong friends from refereeing. I only stopped because I got injured and I was always getting sent off, and I got into it. And I've made some brilliant friends within clubs, with everything a part of doing it. It increases your employability because all those soft skills you learn. And I even though we fight to keep this side of the game, like we talk about the abuse in the spotlight, I will never say to anyone, don't get into it. I will always say, get into it. And now is more time than ever to get into it, because of the measures that you're bringing in as a national governing body makes it even safer and more supportive than ever before. So to me, there's no greater time currently to get into refereeing. I really believe that.
Totally agree with you there. My 14-year-old son starts his referee course next month. And I've been backing him all the way for that. I think it's life affirming, it's life changing, and the development for a 14-year-old to earn, money on a weekend by doing something he really, really enjoys, watching a game he loves and being a part of it. It's fantastic. And now with the additional support, we are with people like Martin and yourselves on board with all of this, I'm confident that he's going to have a fantastic refereeing future.
And Wayne, if he does get any issues, speak to the RDO at the county, right? Speak to people who are meant to be there to help.
Yeah.
And come to us if you need to, because I think that is so important. As I keep reiterating that, as a youngster they can get all these benefits, but that you could be talking about the next Michael Oliver, right? But we'll never know, if the bad experience in the first 3 months means they're never going to do it. Yeah. That's the point.
And this leads on as well into the thing about the moan about officials and etc. But I mean, I don't know the figures on this at all, but I would imagine the pool of referees maybe now is maybe smaller than what it was. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, or whatever. And if you're wanting to get the best that there is, then don't put them off from doing it in the first place, because like you say, you don't know who's going to be the next big referee. And if they have a really bad experience in that first 12 months and they don't want to come back and they don't want to do it, they could have had all the potential in the world to go on and make it and become a Premier League referee, but you never know that. And so if the talent pool's smaller, then you're naturally not going to get as many. Well, you're still going to get good referees, but there's not going to be as many to choose from. Whereas if everybody comes through, everybody feels supported, nobody's worried about turning up and I mean this as well. A referee has to express himself. They have to be able to express when they make a decision, why they made a decision, have the confidence to tell the players, tell the coaches why I made this decision, without the fear of being abused for it. And I think by doing that and taking that away, it'll make them come out of the shell even more. It'll make them become better referees by making a decision. You'll ultimately get a better game of football because of it. So I think by reducing that abuse and allowing them to, I didn't know that, a really interesting point about getting past the first 12 months. You're going to get better referees out of it. You're going to get more referees that are better at what they do. So ultimately, your game of football that you love to go and play or spectate on a weekend will be better because your referees will be better. It's just everything falls in place. Everything works together, and people just don't see this for me.
It's not rocket science, Wayne, is it? I mean, it's just basics, if I'm honest, right? But here's the stats. Our numbers are up, which people go to me, really? We've got over 30,000 registered referees. Well, the difference is the availability is low. Is less. So what does that mean? It means the previous cohort will be making themselves available every weekend to referee. Now, post-COVID, we've noticed people are picking and choosing which weekends and then taking themselves off the list, which means we're probably not getting the coverage that we want. And whereas in the past, I think one of the mistakes we've had within grassroots certainly is to be concentrating on coverage. Oh, we need a referee, and we didn't really care. Right, who that referee was, what that referee was, just get the game refereed. That can't be right either. We can't that can't be the KPI, if you like. That can't be the driver. The driver has to be, we need referees who will make themselves available every week. Why? Because it's a good environment, they're enjoying it, and they just want to do it. And that's the next step for me.
So is that figure that you give me there, is that for the adults game, or does that include the
men, women, juniors? That's registered referees.
Because the reason I asked you about that is, and I don't know if this is just because this is just in the Doncaster League where I'm in, or whether it's coming across the board, is that when I first started out, you had to be a qualified referee to ref the junior games, and then if you wasn't, you I think you're only allowed to do 3, even if you was a coach and you was DBS checked, etc.
Yeah.
But Doncaster League have brought it now that you don't actually have to be a referee to referee games. You just have to have an FA DBS check. So there's a lot of refs that are now reffing in our league that are not qualified referees. They're just FA DBS check because there's such a shortage of referees in the Doncaster League at junior level.
It is different around the country, I have to say. I don't know your league, Wayne, forgive me. Maybe I should do. But it sounds good fun by this, what you say. But yeah, look, that's exactly what I'm saying. We've got the numbers. We just have people who don't make themselves available. What does that mean? That means that we don't get the coverage, which means people are refereeing who probably are doing it out of necessity because you need a referee, right? So that's where hopefully, if we can just change this culture, this environment in which we operate, that might help you to get a qualified referee more often than not. That's what we'd hope. Yeah. But we're not naive to the fact that happens, I'm afraid.
And that's what we've
I think one of the things that you probably raise it anyway, but I think the pro game has a big part to play. I'll come out the pro game, right? So this is sort of an area that I know quite well, but what we've seen over the last year, really, I think is a worsening of behaviour by people who should know better, role models in the game. I don't need to name names because you all know them, but I think that's where we not only have we got to launch this strategy, we've got to launch a campaign, and we've seen these campaigns before. We've got to do better than that. We've got to get all stakeholders on board. They already are, we think, to say enough is enough. We need to make sure that referees are able to use the tools they've got to clamp down on bad behaviour, be that a Premier League match or a UEFA final, as we sadly saw last week with Anthony and what happened there, which was dreadful stuff. But I think that is just as important as the points deduction for me, is the fact that we need to get these role models of the game, which is, you know, all the pro players and WSL players as well, respecting the referee more. And I think what we've done actually, and I'm not criticising, but I think what we've allowed to happen is we've also it's almost the officials that are out there now. We've almost so that they've got the tools to do the job right. They've got the tools. It's in the laws of the game to book and send off players for bad behaviour. We've told them not to. The game doesn't expect that to be the case, and I think there's got to be a change there, because what's happening is the kids are copying the behaviours of the pro players. And therefore, it goes all the way down to grassroots. So why are you not getting a referee on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning? Because someone goes, well, if I'm going to get abused the same way that ex-pro player abuses our top referees, why am I bothering? It's a massive issue. And again, it's something we have to just not skirt around. We've got to take it on and make sure these clubs know their responsibilities to the rest of the game.
Can I just, I think that's a really good point that you made. And I also think that, the way we view referees, the way we interact with them, and I know this probably goes, I think Martin said to me before, this might go even above the FA, in terms like the world level, who controls what can and can't be seen and heard. But we spoke on, I think it was our first podcast that we did, about the special that Howard Webb did on Monday Night Football with Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, and he let you hear the referee audio. Now, not only am I a massive football fan, I like my rugby as well, and I love it when decisions are up in the air and it goes to the video ref and you hear the communication and you hear them talking. And I think as a spectacle, that adds something to it. It's giving you insight that you I think as a fan you need to hear. And when I watched that bit with Howard Webb and he was letting you listen to the audio, it opened up a whole new world of kind of what referees are doing and how actually really good the top refs are at the job. And I think that by allowing, if this would ever be possible in the future, I know it can't be for people in the grounds because obviously they're not going to be able to hear it, but for people that are at home watching on TV, to have that level of transparency, to open up to hear the ref talk to the lino or the guy sat in the VAR room or the fourth official, I think that'd open up a new avenue of entertainment, because you'd be like, oh, well, that's why he's made a decision. There'd be no grey areas. There'd be no, all right, there'll still be grey areas because us three have disagreed on decisions already. But, you know, you'll know why they made that decision. You'll know why they've come to that decision. And I think I just think it'd be another selling point. And I think to open that door up for them and to let them have a voice, you know, to say, I think that'd be amazing for football. It's
already happening, Wayne. So IFAB have agreed through a trial, and FIFA are trialling it at the Under-20 World Cup out in Argentina, and as well as others. You might even see it in the Women's World Cup. I'm not sure. I'm not across it. But I think you might even see where there's a VAR intervention, you'll be able to hear the comms. And I think that's again another massive change in favour of the officials to be able to get across the decision making, how difficult it is, what they weigh up, how they're talking to each other. That was certainly a game changer for me when I got involved in this end, and when VAR was first coming in the trials. We used the FA Cup to trial it, and I was at Stockley Park, and I was privileged to be able to listen in on the comms of match officials. I was blown away, if I'm honest. I've been watching hundreds of games, 17 years in a game. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how good they were. I didn't understand how the four of them all talk to each other. And if we could get that across to people, especially people in the technical area, they shouldn't be, you know, interacting with the fourth official, because the fourth official's got a job to do to help the officials on the field, right? And when I saw that in action, I was like, this is a game changer for these people who, like me, were chief execs of clubs who sat there and not understanding it. It's almost like I say, the refereeing world had got this point where it didn't want to engage. It didn't want to tell people how it did its job, right? We're totally the opposite. You're right. Howard's piece on Sky was brilliant. And how many people have just gone, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know they did that. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily about VAR. VAR is just a side issue for me.
Yeah.
The issue about comms and how they talk to each other. Now, that's at the pro end of the game. And as you know, 90-something% of our referees go out on their own. But I still think that getting those audio clips out there will help the fan understand the game, understand the officials, and therefore understand the issues that even the referees have at grassroots. So it'll go all the way down the pyramid to help referees at all levels. That's what
I mean. I think the understanding level and seeing what the referees do and watch how they interact and watch how difficult. I mean, I know how difficult decisions are to make, and I only do kids football. And I know how tough it can be at times when little Johnny rolls over and he claims that he's got his leg broken. There's nothing. It's hard. It's tough. So when you've got pros going about it, and how quick they are and how fast it is, especially at the top end, and you hear them talking, and I think from that, I think there would have been a lot of people sat back and going, actually, these refs do a really good job, which a lot of people knew already, but not enough people knew. So then when they go and watch the little kid play on a Sunday, which is obviously coming from my point of view on a junior level, they'll be less inclined to dish that abuse out because, I've seen how tough it is. And he's on his own. He hasn't got VAR. He hasn't got a fourth official. He's lucky if he's got a lino half the time because nobody wants to run line because of the abuse that they're going to get. So when they did that, I was just like, this is what I love about when I watch rugby, to understand why they made the decisions to do that in football and to watch that little Howard Webb piece. It was like, wow.
Game changer, wasn't it? And I think some of the info you just give us there, Anders, I really feel quite privileged that you're sharing that with us, mate, because there are some other game changer moves. And what Howard said in that piece and similar times he was in the media, it's exactly what I'm seeing from the FA and yourself. The drawing back the curtains, he said, didn't he? We're drawing back the curtains on football so people can see what's going on inside the house. And I think that's clear. And like what we've seen with Anthony, I don't want to dwell on the horrible incident with Anthony, but you've seen that clip. It's on our Twitter and it's got 16.5 million views. Vast majority of people are supporting Anthony. So we know the vast majority of people don't accept this behaviour, and we need those people to have a louder voice. But Anthony was the calmest man in that incident. Everyone was losing their head. He's got his wife and his children there. And then we see these skill sets every single game at that level. The pressure these guys and girls are under, and yet they stay calm. Wonderful, wonderful window needs to be shown on those skills, what we touched on earlier, the employability level. When you get to the level, the elite level these guys are at, you see, how did he or she stay that calm in that stadium full of people, with millions of people watching at home? It's unbelievable skill set that isn't really recognised, I don't think.
Martin, I totally agree. Look, whatever people say about refereeing in this country, we've got some of the best referees in the world. We always have had, right? We always have had, and we've got Anthony, we've got Michael, we've got Rebecca, we've got some of the world's best referees, but we've got to support them, and we've got to make sure they are supported from what we've seen in the pro game, which is a definite sort of erring towards worse behaviour on field. Or worse than it was. We've always had behaviour on field. We've always had, listen, it's a passionate game. It's what people throw at me. It's a passionate game. People boil over. Yes, they do. Yeah, we know that. But they're professionals as well. And if they don't do something, we need to. There's a stat out there that Roberto Rossetti is the head of UEFA refereeing, and he came out with something about 9 months ago, which I thought was really interesting. He was delivering a speech somewhere, and numbers of referees across Europe are in decline. And he said that we're presiding over the death of refereeing. He said in a statement. That's a powerful statement. And what he meant by that was, to the point that we're wrestling with, and Wayne, you said it earlier, if we don't do something, we're not going to have the next Anthony or Michael, because we're going to lose them before they get there. And that's the point he's making. Behaviour has got worse across all of football around the world in terms of its disrespect of referees and refereeing. It's now we've got to change the dial. We've got to move people. We've got to make them understand their responsibility and what bigger part. I mean, if I'd like to think, maybe I'm naive, but I'd like to think most people who play even at professional level love the game. I'd like to think that, right? But if you do love the game, then you've got to protect it, and we're not protecting it with some of the behaviours we're seeing. And that was a good example last week, Martin, as you referenced.
Yeah, it was me. And I think one of the things I'd like to run past you as well, if I may, Hans, and I know you're a busy man, I don't want to keep it too long. I really appreciate your time. Is the female game, the women's game, and some of the people that's led that to the place it is now and the way they support their referees. And we have a very different culture within the female game. We have people like Kelly Sims, who's just retired, wonderful advocate for the game. Baronet, well, Dame Sue Campbell now. I know it as Baroness Sue Campbell. These people in the game who have developed that side of the game, and the way that's going with regards to the match officials at that level, I think that's another great sign of how the national governing body have supported referees on that side of it, and how we can evidence with the right people in the right place, like yourself and what Kelly's done previously and Baroness Sue Campbell. We had this sort of hole from when I was on the list and Wendy Toms was there. Wendy Toms is in the same position that Sean Massey is. And between Wendy stopping, it was an amazing match official. Did the League Cup final with Alan Wilkie, I think it was called a Milk Cup then. Then we had this massive gap where no female people come through, officials come through until Sean. I don't think we're ever going to be in that gap again. The way the support that we're giving the match officials in the female game, I think you know Vivian Steinhaus, what she did in Germany, top flight. We have Stephanie Frappart, what she done in France. I think, like we have with Rebecca Wells coming through, I think it won't be too long now that we'll have a female match official in the middle in the Premier League, and I don't think we could have ever said that decades ago.
I totally agree. We made a big point of bringing BB across from Germany to head up the women's pro game refereeing. We've got a big strategy for increasing the number of female referees in the FA strategy. It's a critical pathway. Why? Because the women's game is just, as you rightly say, Martin, it's grown and grown. It's a massive success story. But again, we need to catch up. Refereeing is still catching up. We're not quite growing at the same pace. But it's not for the will. We've got a budget in place now specifically to develop young female referees. That wouldn't have happened a few years ago. And with a role model like BB, in working for PGMOL, heading the pro game up, we've got somebody to look up to who is one of the biggest female referees there's ever been, right? So I think the opportunities for young female referees are probably the biggest and best they've ever been. But we need to make sure that we again support these people with the right skill sets, because their pathway might be slightly different. Rebecca Welsh, unbelievable how she's done what she's done. She's now she's refereed a championship game, and why not? And you're absolutely right. There's no reason why we can't get a female official refereeing a Premier League game at some point. Why not? The WSL again is I know the WSL is striving to be the best women's league in the world, just like the Premier League. Well, if it is, and I think it will get there, we need to make sure we've got the best female referees in the world as well. That's our target. And that in itself will set the role models for young girls to emulate. The Emily who did the FA Cup final, for example. And there's a piece on BBC where you hear the comments from Emily as well. If you see it on Football Focus the week after, we actually got permission to actually play back some of the comms that they were saying on BBC. It's about a 4-minute bit, but following on from Howard's piece the week before, again, just another way of, as you say, pulling back that curtain and showing people how good these officials are.
Yeah,
you did. You did a really good piece back in February about the importance of referees at grassroots. You did it on the FA site. It was actually a really good piece, and I think taking into consideration me reading that back in February, me seeing you now. And seeing the changes that have taken place since then, I thought I'd let you know. I actually believe you.
Well, thanks, Wayne. Look, we got some investment from our board at the time when money in every business post-COVID is tight, right? But we got great support from the chief exec, and we got great support from the chair, Debbie Hewitt, in terms of refereeing. She loves to understand, what's going on in refereeing, but that helps us get a little bit extra money to be able to do what we think is going to be or put in place this strategy. We believe it, so I wouldn't be saying this unless we believe it. Now, how successful we're going to be is another thing, So, in a year's time, you might be moaning at me, Wayne, saying we haven't seen a difference, but I hope we do. Because I believe we can do this. I really genuinely do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be prepared to come on and speak to you guys, because I'd hide in a corner. But I'm not going to do that, because look, we need to do it. We have to do it. The game deserves us to do it. Referees are the lifeblood of the game. Without them, we can't have football, and we can't take them for granted. I think that's the point. I think English refereeing is taken for granted, that we're always going to have the best referees in the world, without actually working out how we do it or where they come from. I think they've certainly woken up to the fact, these referees, going back to Jack Taylor or whatever, they don't just appear, right? They do it because they're dedicated, but that's not good enough anymore in this world. We have to invest in the development of young people in time more than anything else, to make sure they can be the best they can be. So I'd like to think we can make a difference, but we're going to need masses of help from the volunteer workforce, and refereeing is huge. Martin, you know that. The people that do it because they love it and want to make sure that they hand over their experience to young people. I'm always in awe of volunteers, be it referees, coaches, whatever. But we can't do it. We can't do it without those people. But again, we need to make sure that they're recognised as well. So, yeah, a lot to do, but it's exciting times, I think.
Oh, nailed it, Andy. And what a great way to end this episode of it. I've got so much more out of it from what you've shared with us with regards with what's coming in the future, and it's just great to hear from the horse's mouth, someone as high up in the FA as you are, controlling directly with what happens in the referee strategy and the referees departments, to hear that positivity and that real want, and like Wayne said, that we actually believe you, and we believe you, and I don't think you're going to let that down belief. And I think join the other guys here and thank you, mate. Just thank you for giving referees the hope that's coming, what you've done with the body cam pilots and the points deduction. And thank you for coming on and giving us your time, mate.
No, Jen, it's been nice to chat with you guys, and I genuinely will say it won't be for the want of trying. We're going to give this the best shot we got, with the support of everybody in the refereeing community and beyond it. That's the point. We need people beyond the refereeing community to understand the community and actually support it for the betterment of the game. And that's the task. And
can I ask, have you missed anything that maybe we've not covered that you wanted to get out there, Andy, that you maybe wanted to put across there? Or we kind of covered everything for you today. We kind of wanted to give you the platform really to obviously voice your voice and tell us your thoughts and everything that you're working on, which, like Martin said, has been absolutely incredible. So have we missed anything that you'd like to, pop in that you think's important, or have we pretty much covered it all?
I think we've covered it for now, Wayne. Look, when this podcast becomes so famous, it goes worldwide and got billions of people watching it, I'll come back on and we'll talk again. But no, look, we
might have to pay you then.
Look, thanks for the opportunity to come and chat with you. I've enjoyed it, but look, it is the start of something new, as I keep saying. I'm just so pleased that people have understood it. As you guys nailed it when you said about the points deductions, that's a game changer. But then being transparent's a game changer, letting people understand what the refereeing how hard it is, but how ultimately we need the best referees, or we need referees, whether they referee one game a year or we want them to do more, but we just want them to be the best they can possibly be, but also have the ability to go out and enjoy what they do without fear of abuse or having a negative experience. That's really the point.
Bravo.
Super. Well, on that note, I'm going to close it down. Remember, if you've been listening today, you've been listening to us on YouTube, click the subscribe button and then you'll be notified when the new episodes come out. Martin, can we release yet the next guest we've got coming on, or should we surprise them?
Let's surprise them.
We'll surprise them. Yeah, so remember, click the subscribe button and you can get us on all your streaming services now with Listy Podcasts. And if you're not following us yet, find us on whatever you use, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The handle is @TheRefPod. Pretty easy, The Ref Pod. And give us a like. follow us, and I'm sure you'll see Martin either on TV or arguing with somebody on Twitter. It's very amusing to watch. So, Andy, super. I mean, we all really appreciate your time. Andy's just left the link. To say it was an impressive interview would be an understatement. Thoughts, guys?
Brilliant. Just absolutely superb to get his voice, his angle, the information that he parted with us. It just, it's just fantastic. Martin, well done for getting him on, mate. Really well done.
Oh, mate, it's he was even better than I thought he was. Talking some of the stuff that's going to happen in the Women's World Cup and stuff like that.
I know.
Really opening out to us and being honest about it. It was
that's like breaking news, isn't it? I mean, that's like, brand new, massive news. It's massive, that. Massive.
I know. It's and him to trust us with it. Is another little thing. But like I said before he come on, why I wanted him on, he is an absolute game changer for the FA in what he's doing with refereeing. And I've been so harsh on the FA over the years and broke loads of windows trying to get the doors to open. But honest to God, I've met him a few times. I know how good he was, but that was even better.
Yeah, and I think the key word here is transparency, open and honest, which is what he's trying to make referees be in terms of, we're talking about the audio, releasing the audio and having him on and be that open and transparent with us. I think that obviously when you asked me about doing this podcast, I was obviously blown away to get the opportunity to say, yeah, actually, I'd love to do it. And then, I mean, we've said earlier, we're going to keep it a surprise on more guests that are coming on. But that was just a little taste of that, of where we're going to go with this. And I just feel really, I want to say buzzing, happy, because I think this could really be, I think the tables are starting to turn in how people view referees. And I think we could play a major part in that, in getting these messages out from people that have got some real authority in the game and people that experience it and have experienced it. And I think by us giving them a platform to tell their story and get information like we just got for Andy is huge for us as for the podcast. So I feel I felt excited before. Yeah. I feel like dancing.
Privileged and honoured, really, aren't we?
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, you'll know we've got four interviews this week, and I can't believe the people that I'm still yet to speak to this week. So, yeah, I'm a bit lost for words out of that. But
it sounded, and I think people might be thinking, "Oh, really?" But the FA,
really.
Well, maybe the FA would be like that. They haven't really got conduits to get stuff out there in this sort of manner. They do some great work, and the Marcoms department are really good. But this is like delivered in a different way, and it's another sign of where the FA is going. Otherwise, Andy wouldn't have come on here and be so open with us. So, read between the lines there that I think hearing that they might do that in some games in the Women's World Cup, and they might do it in the Premier League, have an open mic. Oh my God!
Yeah.
What an absolute fundamental positive change that is going to be. And I just think, and you read between the lines, what Andy was saying was, but he said something quite fundamental there that I was a little bit fair play, and was he said the teams above step 7, we could use this as a stick to say, if you don't behave, it's coming up to your level.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Anyone from the FA talk like that, so candid, that's what I mean. That's why I wanted him on so much. He's absolute diamonds, and if you do listen to this, and we're the three of us here. Really,
thank you. Yeah,
thank you. So fair play, Andy Ambler from the FA.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, we've added this little bit in extra. I'll tell you quickly why, if you're watching or listening. We've obviously had Andy on. He's given us an hour of his time, which we can't thank him enough for. But literally, when obviously Andy left the meeting, and it was left with us three, and it was just literally silence. Everyone was just like, "Wow, what have we just been told?" So Martin said we need to do this little bit extra, so we're doing a little bit extra just to tell you, just and in no certain terms as well. Let Andy know if he is listening how blown away we are and how thankful we are for his hour that he's just given us. So we'll finish again for the second time. I might cut that other bit out actually. You know, I'll just blend it in. You know, I'll do that.
Blend it in, lad.
Maybe. So we have. Can I just say as well that it was too serious of an interview to get it out there, but you're getting too big for this podcast, Martin. If you don't, everybody knows you now. You don't tell him more than Philip Schofield on Friday, mate.
Nice analogy, thanks, mate.
I wanted to put that joke out there just because on Friday, I don't know if you know or you missed it. Or was it Thursday? Or Friday? I can't remember whatever day it was. Friday, wasn't it?
It was Friday, yeah.
He texted me to say I'm on TalkSport at 7:30, so I make sure I never missed it. And then throughout the day, I kept getting, I'm on BBC
I'm on
News.
BT, I'm on this.
Fucking hell, he's on telly more than Cora, this guy. So, and it was brilliant. And I did want to take piss out of me a little bit, but I also wanted to say to you, what a brilliant job you did last week to get out there. And it was such a hotbed for that particular story around Anthony Taylor. And I'm sure we've got a guest coming on later in the week that we can probably touch on more a little bit about the Anthony Taylor story, which you're all very much aware of. But for you to get out there and back that up, the only thing I'm disappointed with you though is you didn't ask Razor Ruddock to come on the pod.
I did, but I did it by text message.
Really?
I messaged the producer who and said, look, I'd love to have him on any chance, and he hasn't got back to me yet. But there's also I've got a couple of other things going on with the producers at TalkSport to see if we can get people on, because people are seeing that what we try to do, and you know we're just trying to keep the spotlight in. Too many knobheads in our game are getting too big a voice.
Yeah,
and I don't mean me. I mean these people out there who are being horrible to people, and we're just trying to sort of balance that out and say, I'm not going to let you get away with it, mate. And I'll be going to Jose again next couple of days.
Good.
I am definitely in. What normally happens, I'm going to put something out there, and someone picks it up. I'll just start getting calls from people. But you know, I'll put it out before this goes out. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. But
yeah,
someone leaked Anthony Taylor's phone number.
Yeah.
Lazio to a Roma page. And in fairness, a Juventus fan got in touch with him and said, listen, someone's leaked your number. I just thought I'd let you know. So, of course, he's got to kill that number. But that's the sort of bollocks.
That's the level it's getting to.
That's the bollocks that goes on. And that's why I think there's little game chambers come up. People starting to listen to us more. I've wanted to do a podcast like I did the previous one, but that didn't work out because of someone else's throwing the dolly out of his pram. But to meet you two, and like I said before, and the skills that you've got to bring this into life it's just great to see, and it's great to be back out there in podcast world and trying to make our game a little bit more friendlier towards referees and a bit safer towards them.
Yeah, no, honestly, mate, I thought you were brilliant last week. I watched them. I watched you send them to me. I listened to you. I would tell you, my mate Martin's on telly, radio. Oh, he's back on telly. Oh, he's on telly again. Well, if you missed it, he's going to be on later on about 7:30. You know, I see you'll see him just flick it on every time there's a news on. Martin will be there. But no, I thought it was good. I thought it was big, and you know, the stuff you put out on social media as well. And I don't know if you've seen, mate. I got involved here and had a few arguments, a few deadheads.
Yeah.
And you know, I like being able to put stupid people in a box and leaving them there.
I know. And what was funny? What was funny? What funny from my point of view? Not funny on the subject. Obviously, I'll go for my pints on a Friday with my mates. Many people out there who think refs haven't got mates, but I've got a few. We have a pint every Friday.
Just ref mates. You just ref mates.
Football friends. And there is Sky on there. I never said nothing. I sat down, and I said, "Oh, can you put Sky on? Can you put Sky Sports News on?" To the owner of the pub. Yeah, right then. He puts on Sky Sports News, and it was just gone o'clock.
You were there,
and I said, "I'm going to be on in 6 minutes." 6. Well, no, do you not? I said, "No, it's been on for the last couple of hours on the hour. I'll come on in 6 minutes." They were like, "Yeah, right." And there it was in the pub. I'm in the pub and I go, "Way, Sky, way!" Well, no one bought me a bleeding pint.
Really?
No.
Well, they're sick of hearing it, that's why.
But yeah, but it was the impact in the pub of seeing everyone in that pub said that's outrageous. not me being on telly, what happened to Anthony and his family. And like Andy was saying, having this sort of positive outcomes of this is a different game. But most grassroots levels, not most, a lot of grassroots level referees would relate to what's happened there and worse. That goes on away from the cameras without police officers and security.
Yeah. No. But just finally finish off, because I am going to lick a little bit more ass. If you can get Razor Ruddock, I'll be in forever in your debt. I loved him at Liverpool. I think he's one hell of a character. I thought it was amazing on TalkSport, proper refreshing, real down-to-earth bloke. Yeah, just says it how it is. And you know what I also find really inspiring is he's lost about God knows how many stone. He looks really well. I watched him on the Harry Zero thing, and they were trying to get him to lose weight, and I don't know how he's done it, but wow, hats off to the guy. So if Razor is listening, I want you on, and I'd like a signed shirt, please, to go with my John Barnes one. I mean, surely you want your shirt next to John Barnes. I mean, surely that's like the ultimate kind of respect I can give him, that I'd sit him next to John Barnes. Surely.
Fair play. Well, when I finished that on TalkSport, when I finished that interview, about an hour and a half later, Razor Ruddock follows you on Twitter.
Really? I
was like, oh,
can we tag him in this last little bit?
You can tag him. What I'll do, I'll say, shout out to Razor Ruddock at the end of it. And I think, because I mentioned in an interview on TalkSport, it wasn't disingenuous, absolutely genuine. What a massive help he's been to people who have been through the similar problems he's been through. Ordinary people. No, he's had a wonderful career and all that. But what he's done with his weight, what he's done with his mental health challenges, what he's done with his drinking. Absolute massive positive example and role model for a lot of people out there. So fair play to Razor.
Yeah, absolutely. Second that. But and I know we're digressing a little bit here. You know what I do hate about TalkSport though? When they never let you say goodbye. They cut you off and then they say goodbye to you. And you never actually. They did it to me when I had that thing with what's his name that I'll tell you about the other week. And I'm like, just let him say goodbye. I don't know why it bugs me. I just want him to say thanks, see you later. But they'll say, thank you, Martin. That's Martin from Ref Support UK, and then you just don't hear Martin's gone.
I know. Because I wanted to talk about the FA Cup coming up, because so many grassroots referees do the early rounds of the FA Cup, and I wanted to say, it's great to have the team out there who's doing it, but remember that journey starts with grassroots.
Yeah.
People doing those first qualifying games, but I did get a chance to, but I'm sure that's a time for another day. But
absolutely.
Listen, boys, well done. Thanks for your help.
Good. No, thank you. So remember, we changed the name. It's at the Ref Pod, So we're searching us, whether it's Spotify. We're still waiting for Apple. Hopefully by the time you're hearing this, we're up on Apple. It's on everywhere else, Deezer and Podchaser and Amazon Music and all that. We're there. We're also on YouTube at the Ref Pod. It couldn't be easier. If you want to follow us, if you want to see some of my mad videos, I'm sure Wayne will start putting some mad videos up. Martin's everywhere anyway, just doing mad stuff. It's at the Ref Pod, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can also follow Martin. Well, you can follow us all really. Martin's at Ref Support UK on Twitter. I'm not even going to spell you mine, and I'm not even sure what Wayne's is, but we'll get them and we'll put them up on her.
I think it's Yorkie Pudding.
Yorkie Pudding. Well, mine's Rilesy82, but nobody knows how to spell it. So there's no point me saying that, is there? But yeah, good luck if you do find it. So we'll see you possibly. We're not going to be back next week. We're going to be back Friday. But yeah, we have got a special for you on Friday. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us. We'll drop some teasers in Friday morning, and then sometime Friday afternoon, Friday night even, we're going to drop a massive, massive podcast that you're going to definitely want to listen to before Saturday night. Why would it be before Saturday night? Because there's a certain small game of football getting played that if you love football, you'll be watching it. So subscribe, listen out. To the Goatee brothers, thank you very much. And I will see you guys later in the week. And like I say, subscribe. See you later, guys. Thank you, lads. Been a good one.
Yo.